Hi there, I'm Simon Canton, and
And
with
I'm Dave Higgins.
is Dave Higgins, and we've written Greenstar Season 1, and we thought we'd do a hangout where we're going to go through our favourite moments from Season 1. Hopefully you've already read the season. If you haven't, there's going to be spoilers in this hangout, so just be warned that you should probably read the season first before you go through this video. So, I don't know about you, Dave. I've made a little list of different things. So I kind of did it in roughly chronological order. So I don't know if you want to do one each, back and forth, or
That makes sense. Yeah, let's swap back and forth and see where we go from there.
Grant. Well, the first one I had was Doc trying to attract the prospector Flint McSteel while disguised. That was a funny moment from episode 2, I think. And at the start, she's a swarthy Greek man, and obviously the prospector guy isn't particularly into that. And then later on in the episode, she's a drugged-up, not Calamari, Delphan. And the prospect is not particularly into that either. I thought that was quite funny, at least.
Definitely. I think Doc's changes are something that really adds to the season, because in Space 1999 they had a character who could change, but all of her changes were sensible and useful. So the idea that Doc changes into things and then either doesn't realize what's going on or has done something horrifically inappropriate is quite an interesting twist.
Like, it was Odo in Deep Space Nine as well. Obviously, could change.
So he could change. He could change into everything, apart from some reason he couldn't do human faces properly. I never quite worked out why he couldn't look like a human.
Yeah, because he could look exactly like a bucket or whatever.
He looked like a bucket. He could look like other alien races, but if he tried to look like a human, he ended up looking like Odo. He might have been able to do subtle variations on Odo, but they never really explained quite why that was.
I'm wondering whether there's something in that for a future season that we could have Doc not quite be able to do something.
Oh, there's something that Doc can't turn into. That would be funny.
Yeah.
So watch out for that in a later season, people.
So, did you want to go?
Yeah, my first really funny moment was the Paul getting hoisted by his own rules, where he set up the rules that sort of the person with the most flight experience is the captain. And so Topic points out that Josie's actually been floating through space in an airlock for over 1,000 years. So she's got about 900 and something years seniority on everyone else. This sort of Paul's very carefully set it up so that he can never be voted out, and then he gets hoisted by it. So as a lawyer, it really amuses me, people setting up these complex things and then getting hoisted.
That's actually stolen a little bit actually from the Lost Fleet series, because Black Jack in that has been frozen for hundreds of years and then is woken up and he's the admiral just because he's been frozen for hundreds of years. But there, obviously, it's serious, whereas we're just joking.
We're having fun with things, yeah.
See, the next one I had. I had Paul's change of heart on Irina Burke, the president of Oculo. After he finds out that she thinks he's hideous, then he's like, "Yeah, she's not that good looking after all. She's just she's ugly actually if you really think about it, and I just thought that was quite funny. Like Paul is such a
Yeah.
such an idiot and such a self-centered egotist that he if someone doesn't think that he's handsome, then immediately his opinion of them is soured.
Yeah, but his confidence is amazing, though. I think if he's actually attempted to seduce every single one of the female crew, pretty much all of the female characters he beats, and he even almost ended up seducing a farm plat, which is quite funny.
Yeah. And I mean, at the start of episode 1 as well, he's all smiles and friendly to Josie, right up until she's
Yeah.
takes over as captain, and then he hates her. But you can kind of tell that he was kind of making his move there too. So yeah, I mean, you'd wonder. He's obviously been successful because Professor Emily Blamco, he did have something there 10 years ago or whatever it was. But you'd wonder how often, if it's just that he tries so much that eventually he has to be successful somewhere.
No, it's your it is your pickup artist technique that he's out there. He's just trying. If he tries it with everyone, then statistically he's going to hit someone who will agree. But his number of second dates is shocking. I mean, there are even sort of some times where someone agrees and then suddenly comes down with mysterious space flu and can't actually make the date. So possibly his successes aren't because anyone likes him. It's because he just keeps asking, and some people can't handle saying no.
I wonder if that's an idea for a future short story or mailing list thing or something. Paul's dating tips. The 10 things that Paul you should know about dating from the most unsuccessful person at dating ever. So what was your next one?
My next one was actually a Doc moment where she's on Delphan. She takes all the woozer, but it does absolutely nothing. It goes on for ages. It turns out that Delphin food is hallucinogenic for humans. And it's not until the end of the episode that anyone actually thinks, hang on a second, maybe not everyone has the same physiology. So it's always quite amused me that in science fiction series you'll meet alien races who are descended from birds, from squid, even from a lump of silica that's involved intelligence and arms and legs and so on. And they're always pretty much compatible. So they are, obviously, in reality, they were humans in rubber suits, but from a in-world perspective, they always seem to treat them pretty much as human beings as well. So the drugs, the poisons, everything else always seem to affect everyone. It quite amused me that no one thinks of this. And it's the end, and she just goes off.
That's the Roddenberry thing from Star Trek, that he thought that he believed in evolution that goes to the same finish points every time. That it makes the most sense to have 2 arms and 2 legs because that's the least amount of limbs that would be useful to have, because you don't want to use extra calories on having extra limbs, so you want the minimum amount, but you also have to have useful limbs. But of course that makes no sense at all when you then come to different planets that don't have the same plants and surface and things like that, gravity.
Yeah.
So yeah, but then as well, it's an excuse so that on TV they could just put a little bit of plastic on someone's nose and then get away
Yeah.
with the fact that they're an alien. Whereas in a book we can do anything.
Absolutely.
Let's see, my next one. Oh yeah, was from the Choose Your Own Death episode.
Mm-hmm.
So Neil and Josie start exchanging nonsensical religious things. So the Choose Your Own Death episode was an alternative episode we did for episode 6, where you read the episode through, and then at certain points you get to make decisions. And usually those decisions ended up with you dying, because there's a lot of dying in the jungle and on the way up. And this is the episode where Topic has sent you down to the bottom of the ship, or sent Josie's down to the bottom of the ship, and she has to work her way back up and then replace the shackles on Topic. And Neil is the crazy guy down in the jungle who shouts nonsensical religious things like always bless the altar of the chapel or whatever. And then you start shouting equally ridiculous religious stuff back at him, like, what about the sacrament? What's it going to do to the choristers or something? I just thought that was quite funny. So yeah.
Yeah, that was quite interesting. I don't know where that stands really, and he's mad, but that was, and the religious aspect of Greenstar is something that I'm never quite sure if we're being irreverent or just plain out not funny with those. And they do make you laugh, but I don't know. I think that's one for each person to take their own perspective on. But we're trying to be funny rather than actually insult religion. So hopefully that comes through.
I mean, he's saying ridiculous things. It's not like
that's what I mean. And he's clearly misusing religion. And the entire episode's about.
Well, I mean, like Topic has set himself up as a god.
Yeah.
So even Neil could be repeating things Topic has said to him, and Topic's just feeding him complete random nonsense.
Yeah.
It's not a commentary on any particular religion. I would say that the words themselves come from Christianity, just because I was raised Protestant, so that's just what I know. I wouldn't.
I think it's we poke fun equally at some of the sacraments of Norse paganism in the Josie's marriage short story. Anyway, so we move on before we get serious. No one gets too serious talking about a comedy series.
Yeah. So what was your next one?
Yeah, my next one was an episode 6 one as well. It was the putting the shackles on upside down. It's a double joke, really, that on the surface layer the shackles have got a label on saying this way up that Josie just didn't read, so she's plugged the shackles in upside down. And obviously, sort of having a plug you can put in the wrong way up is a terrible design flaw. But then, once she actually does it, it plugs in and the shackles apply, but the shackles are now in the opposite order. So the idea that these people who've actually made AIs originally was so advanced that they actually built technology that was robust enough that if you assemble it the other way up, it still works works. It just works differently. Yeah.
I mean, I would say Greenstar is very much a series of convenience in some ways, in technology and things like that, where like in some other series you've got things that are very hyper serious, and or even in episode 7 I think it is, where Mark's simulation is, there things have to make sense and all the technology has to do what it's meant to do. But in Greenstar, because it's a comedy series, just like in Red Dwarf and things like that, some things are technologically just doing something that's to set up a joke.
Yeah.
So the shackles being upside down, yeah, you could say that the future societies are so advanced that the technology works even upside down. Or, it's a convenient way for Topic to have reversed shackles.
The reverse shackles are interesting because it makes for a completely different topic, but he's still actually the same. That even with the freedom to kill people, he still doesn't actually do very much that's horrifically dangerous.
I mean, that's the thing. He's a guy he says he wants to kill everyone, but then, if you put a knife in his hands, he'll go, hey, well, no, let's think about this. Maybe I'm going to come up with a smart way to kill people because, I wouldn't just resort to a knife.
Yeah. Here's the ultimate Bond villain. We created a Bond villain, really.
Yeah, pretty much. He'll make a shark pool.
He monologues. He wants to do things the complex way round. So
you'd wonder if maybe that's something for a future season as well. That Josie goes, "Okay, you want to kill me, so here I am. Kill me." He goes, "Oh, I'm going to talk now about my plan." And, no, just kill me. I'm going to. I mean, you want me to kill you, so obviously I'm not going to kill you. And possibility at least. On the reversal of the shackles as well, if you read them carefully, there is kind of a weird logic to them now, because it does say in a few places where it doesn't contradict the previous shackle or the previous shackles. And I'm actually going to open it up here for a second, if I can find it fast. So the shackles actually don't work exactly in reverse after they've been turned over. Let's see. Let's see. The AI must preserve its own life as long as this doesn't contradict the previous shackles. So there's no previous shackles, so the rule is essentially the AI must preserve its own life. The AI must preserve the lives of all sentient beings unless prevented by the previous shackle. So Topic needs to save everyone's lives unless he's in mortal danger himself. The AI must prevent any harm from coming to its owners unless contradicted by the previous shackle. So the AI has to protect its owners unless that would cause the lives of sentient beings to be in danger. But the last shackle is the most important, I think. The AI must obey the orders of its owner. It doesn't say anything about previous shackles. It just says the Topic has to obey orders, no matter what. Which is, I think, the kind of like as an inside peek behind the curtain. Like, that's the important shackle. That if Josie says, "I order you to do something," it doesn't matter what Topic really wants to do, because even if it's endangering his own life, I mean, he then has conflicting shackles. So he has to preserve his own life, and that's standing alone as a shackle. It doesn't have a restraint otherwise, and he has to obey orders. So if Josie says, "Kill yourself," well, then either way, his shackles are going to stop him, and he's essentially going to end up in a complete freeze.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's quite interesting.
Hmm.
Anyway, the next one I had was again in the Choose Your Own Death episode. So apologies if people haven't read that one. But Josie going for a swim, I just thought was quite funny. So Josie gets to the sewage reclamation or the wastewater reclamation facility, which is full of murky, dirty water. And then you can choose that she will go for a swim, even though it's completely disgusting and there's a huge octopus in it,
Yes.
which I thought was quite funny.
Yeah, there are several funny choices in that episode. But yeah, we make it fairly clear that it's possibly the gickiest place in the ship, and then give people the option to go for a swim. So, be interesting to ask the NSA how many people choose that option.
Yeah, it would have been it'd be interesting if we could have had tracking on it, but yeah.
Yeah, I think the Choose Your Own Death episode was hard enough to get it to compile right without adding in sort of something that creates a little anonymous packet to our server saying these are the options that people chose.
Yeah, and as well, I mean, we wouldn't really do that. We wouldn't.
Well, no, tracking everyone's
nice
choices is a little bit creepy.
Yeah. We could just have something popping up saying, "I'm watching you read."
Well, yeah.
That's the other Kindle.
Of course, if anyone out there wants to tell us which choices they liked particularly, then.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We should mention like the easiest way to contact us. At least the easiest way to contact me is on Google Plus. I think the same for Dave.
Yeah, it's easy enough. In Google Plus, my Google Plus profile has other ways to contact me as well. There are various ways to contact me.
But we're both fairly active. Like we're on Google Plus several times a day. So
yeah.
If there's a message, we'd be happy to hear from you.
Yeah, so if you search for Greenstar on Twitter, I'd imagine that at the moment, at least, we're the people who are tweeting about it the most. Although obviously, you all have the power to change that. Overwhelm us with tweets about how great our series is.
I mean, that's an interesting thing to say. At the moment we're recording this, it is the 13th, I think. Yep, 13th of September. And we're launching the full season on the 1st of October, so it's it'll be interesting to see because we worked really hard on this for the last 6 months. So we're very excited to see how much people like it. Yeah, so I was going to say actually about the swimming stuff. So my favorite moments are all the really childish humor. Like anyone who's read my fantasy series and things like that probably knows that I have a fairly childish sense of humor. So, what was your next one, Dave?
Oh, you've knocked me off. Where's my list? There we go. I think the next thing that really amused me was some of the things in the episode. I've got a couple of things from episode 7, which is where we put Greenstar through a hard sci-fi filter. So the bit at the start where the simulation starts, and it's a Star Trek style absolute realistic holographic simulation. And so because prior to Greenstar the original physics was proper physics as opposed to comedy physics, all the gravity goes. And so Josie is finally getting to use all of her skills. Obviously she was a low Earth orbit engineer originally, so she's used to moving around. And Mark just has the natural ability to move through places safely, and probably has training, although we didn't actually specify exactly why he's so good at hard gravity.
I thought, well, maybe we should have specified, but I thought it was because he likes these Greenstar, or rather these Josie Stein adventures, so much that he'll have played lots of these simulations before, and will have been in low gravity or zero gravity a lot. So he was used to it just by want of playing so many of them. But that was in my head and not in the book, so you
Yeah, that
know.
was great. 'Cause I was assuming that prior to being the hero of Corvus and all of these various other things, he'd actually gone through basic training. So they would have given him basic training in zero gravity, just because even the most incompetent military in the world is going to work on the basis that potentially, if you're flying spaceships, the gravity's going to go wonky. So he got it from that, and it was just something that. But either works, yeah.
I mean, it could be both. Either that makes perfect sense because he was part of the military and was fighting in various battles, so he must have come across this stuff before. Like really thinking about it, Mark is closer to the hardtack Josephine Stein than
Yeah.
Joseph is, because he actually fought in battles. Although you know he was a complete coward and wasn't a hero.
Yeah, that is the thing. Once Josie works out how to have Mark run things while not being in danger himself, so his overwhelming instinct to get to safety isn't a problem. He's actually a brilliant commander, because sort of doing four-dimensional space combat in his head, so flying the Greenstar with a remote control while flying the shuttle and keeping track of all of the other things. He's pretty much acting at the level of Ender from Ender's Game, or a flight computer from one of your standard sci-fi things.
Mm.
He's doing all of this complex multi-dimensional vector mechanics in his head, while having Paul talk in his ear about inane stuff. So probably he is hardtack.
Yeah, I mean the danger is that at the end of the season, he's on the Greenstar. So basically, we had a nice arc for Mark that he ended up going from a complete coward to being a hero. Like he's on the Greenstar, he's piloting it, he's in danger, and he's overcoming his own shortcomings. The danger we have then for season 2 is he's an actual hero on this ship full of rejects. So we'll have to see how that goes.
Yeah.
Was that you? I think that was you. So,
It's you now, yes.
the one I had, Josie skipping the queue on Earth. Right. At least,
Yes. That's one of our unfounded attacks on the Germans.
well, it's a kind of backhanded attack on Norwegians, really, because I'm Irish, but I live over in Norway, and for anyone who's watching, and Norwegians cannot queue. Like what would be considered incredibly rude in Ireland or England, where they just push in front of everyone. Like at the grocery store, you're waiting in line, there's 10 people waiting in line, and someone will come up and just push their trolley in front of everyone. And then if you say anything, they go, "Oh, there was a line? Oh, I didn't even realize," and then go to the back of the line. But Norwegians, they're two sides. Like no Norwegian will ever say anything because they're too polite. But a percentage of Norwegians are not polite and take advantage of the fact that the rest of Norwegians are polite and push into the queues, and it really grinds my gears a bit. So yeah, so I then found out that the same is at least a stereotype of Germans, that they push into queues and don't respect the fact that people have been waiting longer than them and they're not special. There's no reason for them to be first. So we kind of stabbed the Germans in the back as a Norwegian substitute. So yeah, hopefully that doesn't offend any Norwegians or Germans out there. But yeah, I mean, English people are famous for loving queues, and Irish people certainly have that from English people. We're quite happy to stand in a queue and wait for hours and hours in the rain.
We do like queuing and tutting, but not saying anything when someone doesn't follow the unwritten rules of queuing.
Yeah, I mean, like all kind. Yeah, queuing at least, certainly for me at least, is a major thing that I can't understand people who can't stand in a queue, and I can't understand people who think they're allowed to cut a queue. Because essentially, if you can't stand in the queue, well, then that's your own tough luck. If everyone else is then getting there first, like I've been places where people stand around, and they're keeping a mental note of where they are in the queue. So then it comes to be their turn, and they go, "Oh, okay, it's my turn." You go, "You're not in the queue," and they go, "No, no, no, I'm here," and then go in front. I've been in those situations, and I've been in other situations where people think that they're better than other people somehow, that they're in a rush, and no one else is in a rush, so they're allowed to go first. But yeah, that's you can tell it's hit a sore point for me. So that was a favorite moment that we put in. Josie just shoves to the front of the queue of the people trying to escape their certain death. She'd be on the Titanic shoving everyone out of the way so she could get to the lifeboat. So yeah, that was another one of mine. Do you have another one, Dave?
Yeah, the layout of Mars that amused me is up until sort of the start of the simulation in episode 7, the biggest problem people have been facing is that the bots on the Greenstar that don't do what they're told. So they weld the airlock in upside down, they wander around in lines, crash into things. They just don't do what they're told at all. And then into the simulation, Mars is built by proper working robots. And the big problem why people don't like Mars is that everything is in straight lines and it's all set out in order. It's just that little reversal. The irony of it amuses me.
I mean, it comes from the fact that I've always thought. So I watched a documentary or a Discovery Channel thing or something a long time ago about Mars, and they said that the radiation is a major problem. The dust is a major problem, but the radiation is a major problem. And that the best way to combat that is to use actual Mars rock to make a dome. And they were saying like astronauts would have to live in a small habitat for a while they were building this dome of Mars rock. And I thought, well, why wouldn't a robot just do that before they get there?
Yeah.
But then you have the problem that the robot's going to make exactly fitted straight line buildings, which for humans is kind of boring. Like most like I think I've never been there, but I think Milton Keynes was kind of built on a plan like that, and people say it's a little boring.
Milton Keynes is. I'm sure if you live there, you get to know the little nuances and differences, but sort of just to go to for a short while, it is very easy to go, well, have I been here before? Have I not been here before? I don't know. And it is all straight lines with straight lines crossing it. So it's
a nice idea, but humans don't really work that way.
No,
a nice experiment.
We are a little more organic than that.
Yeah. Let's see what my next one was. Oh yeah, I actually then went into favorite characters. So I had 3 favorite characters, from the series. So like I enjoyed writing all of them actually,
Yeah.
but I thought Topic was a lot of fun to write because he hates everyone so much. It's so easy as a writer. It's so easy to have someone just spitting vitriol all the time and saying, "I hate her. She's like a female Hitler." You know,
Yes.
it's the complete opposite of what you normally write, which is a hero who's always Dudley Do Right, saying the right thing, doing the right thing, kind of thing. And Topic is lots of fun to write as a point of view character because he doesn't do anything right. He just and he's so small-minded. Like he's not. He thinks he's a supervillain, but he's not. And the second one I had was Paul. He's similarly fun to write for almost the same reasons. He's so selfish that so there's an episode where they're on Plankton, where it's from Paul's perspective, and just the way he justifies everything in his own head. So he's essentially murdered people, and he's like, yeah, but they didn't move fast enough, so it's their own problem. So he was a lot of fun to write too. And my last one was Raina, because we had a little beta reading program for the first 3 episodes for the intro pack, which was back in May, maybe, or June, something like that.
May. Yeah.
Yeah, and people said they like all the characters, but they didn't really understand Raina because there's no real details of her backstory. So then we said, okay, that's a good point, and we went and wrote episode 8, I think, where they go back to Raina's planet, and she goes down to her hometown, and that was a lot of fun to write. Like there was a lot of, like for us, when we're writing the characters, we have an idea of the people they are, but writing an actual episode, going into someone's backstory, you then learn something yourself as an author about them, and that really, I thought, kind of made Raina an important character in my head.
Oh yeah, discovering she can't cook.
Yeah.
Her mother is a great cook, but somehow Raina has utterly failed to pick this up.
Well, I mean, you got hints of that as well, that so they say she's always off with the boys. Like her memories, she remembers coming in for a second to the kitchen because she's playing outside, doing active stuff, and then she comes in, grabs a cake, and then runs off again. And she's never in the house; she's outside, and she's always looking for adventure as a child, and then she grows up and goes off to look for adventure. So yeah, so that was a lot of fun to kind of learn more of her backstory. Did you have another moment, Dave? Or
our moment sort of, well, it actually fits quite nicely into the sort of discussion of characters, because it is the new, I don't know if it's a new flaw, but it's the flaw of Mark's that comes out towards the end when he's actually starting to do space combat properly. That actually he thinks of it as being kind of like a total immersion video game. So he plays he steers the Greenstar through the incredibly complex maneuvers, takes out entire fleets of ships, and then he uploads his kill ratio to a galactic bulletin board, drops the controls on the captain's chair, and stomps off to his room, going, right, going to bed, tired now. It's just the idea that once you get past the fact that he's running away from danger all the time, he actually has the personality of a 14-year-old who's just got Call of Duty 4.
Yeah. Well, that's maybe a little informed. I have twin teenage sons who are 16, so it may be a little informed by that, by the fact that they behave pretty much like Mark does in that episode. They're not quite as bad as that. Obviously, it's exaggerated for comedic purposes, but that was fun. Mark is almost like Kevin in Kevin and Perry and
That's a long time ago.
Yeah, well, I'm old. But yeah, Kevin from Kevin and Perry and from Harry Enfield, and that, that kind of thing. Like an exaggerated version of a teenager. He's not like most teenagers are not quite that bad. And as well, like it's down to Mark, as you say, getting involved into it like it's almost a computer game, kind of. I think even adults playing computer games too much, obviously you can play a little bit, but excessively kind of leads to that antisocial side of people. So we're nearly out of time. So maybe I don't know how many you have left, Dave.
I've got a couple of things left.
We could kind of. I was thinking we could kind of do a quick fire round and say a few words about things and then kind of finish up the list. If that's okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. Is it me or you starting?
Oh, you can go first.
Right. Something that amused me. It sort of might not have stood out to people reading the series is how many Easter eggs there are. Because going through for the final polishing, where I'm reading the episodes one after the other without a break between them, suddenly realised how many characters we've named after various famous people. We've got a Commander Scalzi, who is handsome. So,
yeah. Handsome and radiates knowledge.
Handsome radiates knowledge. So if any famous science fiction authors want to tell people how brilliant we are, then obviously...
I have to read his new one, actually. He's got a new one out.
Please go around and say, but yeah, there are some other little things that less famous science fiction authors who have characters named after them, and obscure physicists, and obviously famous physicists, and
the Tyson Cox symbiote.
the Tyson Cox ether, yes.
That's
the two of them finally merged into one being. That was quite amusing.
And I think I said to you before, the ether. So I watched an entire hour-long episode of How the Universe Works or something with Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he said ether is not a thing. It was something stupid they came up with in the 19th century. So I thought it would be a lot of fun to then say that 100 years from now, the Tyson Cox symbiote comes up with ether and says, "No, actually, it's real." Anyway, that was fun to write.
Yeah, the other thing was the E-Man. I quite like the E-Man. I know sort of they're an interesting concept, but the people who actually came up with all of these brilliant things, like how to make AIs, how to make the starships, a whole lot of other really great technology, and they're still out there, and they're absolutely brilliant intellectually, but they're absolutely nuts as well, and they're not using this intellect for anything at all.
Yeah, I mean that's an age-old thing that I keep seeing on Quora. I'm on Quora a bit, and people are saying, "How can I raise my IQ? How can I be more intelligent?" and all that kind of stuff. And people keep answering, "It's nothing to do with your IQ. It's to do with your drive, to do with who you are as a person. Is what makes you." So you can get an implant in your brain that makes you have an IQ of 1,500 or something, but that's not going to make you get off the couch and actually do anything. But yeah, it might amplify your character defects a bit to make you that intelligent. So yeah, they're good fun. And now there's, at the end of the season, there's only one of them left, and he is super intelligent. So I wonder, I mean, but then incredibly petty at the same time. He's got no one left to fight. Whether he's going to invent someone to fight or get more people down there.
Yeah, that's something else to put in a later season. He might be back.
Yeah. I think, was that it from your list?
Um, I could carry on babbling about things I like about the book, what I wrote, for hours, but
That is true. That's the point of this hangout, is for us to just stroke our own egos.
yeah, they were there. Well, hopefully it's interesting for other people to get some idea, and also it gives them some evidence of potentially which bits we each did, which would be useful because if they ask me, I wouldn't have a clue.
Oh no, I don't know. Like, so for people, for our process is that we have a meeting and we come up with what the episode's going to be about, and then I write the first draft and Dave does the second draft. Essentially makes my mess into something nice, and then when I get it back to polish it, I laugh at things, and then, did I write that or Dave wrote that? I have no idea.
So,
It's a very strange thing because it's a kind of collaborative thing. Like when I write my own stuff on my own, uh, I'm very kind of. It's a strange thing because I can kind of look at something with completely fresh eyes when I got it back from Dave, even if it might have been me that's come up with the idea. I'll assume that Dave did it.
you do. I'm fairly certain there have been several times when you've emailed me going, I'm really glad that we're collaborating because this is the most awesome joke ever, and I'd never have come up with that. And I'm thinking, but I thought that was your joke. It's sort of, we're on the fourth draft. It's like by this point I've lost track of what was in the first draft.
Yeah, I mean that might be a bit sad if I'm writing, if I'm laughing at my own jokes, but no, I mean that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's a Higgins Canton book. It's not a Canton book. It's not a Higgins book, and even we don't know who's done what. So that's kind of fun. Anyway, I might race through my list. We've only got a few minutes, I think, until you need to go, Dave.
Well, we could probably go over a little bit to get to the end of your list, but
Yeah.
short conclusion.
So let's see. So I had a few favorite things that we can go through pretty quickly. The social conscience ray
Oh yes.
is good because when we did episode 1 first as a kind of test to see how it was like, what it was like to work together, and we were thinking, okay, what would hippies have on their ship? They wouldn't have guns that can kill people. That makes no sense from a hippie point of view. So they would have a social conscience ray that just makes you think about what your impact on the environment. The fact that then in episode 9 and 10 it saves the human race is pretty awesome. I thought. And the same with the sim rays, because they're not like a phaser or whatever that can shoot something and just kill someone and or stun them and take them out of the picture. You have to actually think about how you're going to use a sim ray. So in episode 9, I think they use them to make people feel both cold and out of breath, so that they think they're losing atmosphere, which is quite fun. Like when we started the season, we didn't know that they would be that important by the end of the season. We were just coming up with silly things hippies would use, but they were actually more effective than they would have if they'd had real guns. The code for the locks was quite fun.
Yeah.
Do we want to reveal what the code is?
I think we should leave it to people to work out. See if we actually have people in the audience who are old enough to spot what it is.
Yeah.
I
mean, it's not that complicated to work out, really, but yeah, it's a fairly simple code.
Yeah, Baulé is right. If you know what it is, then it's really easy to remember. But if you give them the code and say, and it's really easy to remember, even Doc can do it. If you don't tell them how he built it, it's silly.
Oh, the Choose Your Own Death episode. I just said it was a lot of fun to have characters die, and then you just reverse time and they're alive again.
Yeah.
Like there was even a Star Trek tweet recently where there's a thing called Picard tips on Twitter, and Picard says if one of your crew dies, you have to mourn them with a full funeral ceremony. If your whole crew dies, don't worry, you can reverse time and get them back.
Yeah.
Which we don't do that. We haven't. I don't think we've any plans to start reversing time and having people come back alive. But it's fun to kill people a lot, but they're not really dead because it's a choose your own death.
Okay, all of the choose your own deaths were great. Because you get to really let Topic out of the box on that. Like, well, what are the really utterly creepy, scary, grim ways you could kill someone? And, like, if Topic actually ever succeeded in killing someone, how much gloating would he do?
Yeah.
To actually be able to gloat for 10 or 20 times in the book, where Topic just laughs at you over and over again.
Yeah. And the last one I had there was Stupid Star Name Birthday Present. I thought that one I know I came up with, but like I just thought because I was thinking because star names in science fiction tend to be like Bargos or Narndu or somewhere, whereas all of ours are either a variation on Earth because people can't be bothered to come up with a new name for their planet, so they call it Earth 2 or Earth or Earth, or I forget, like Rob Thomas is the best, or whatever one of the other one was called. Stupid Star Name Birthday Present, because people.
Earth 69, awesome name.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's a whole backstory in the star names thing that we haven't gone into really. But they've all got underscores in. So obviously, the Star Registry has got really old system where it can't handle spaces. So you have to put underscores in instead of spaces.
Yeah, I'm not actually. I've never bought one of those star names or the planet names or anything like that. Or even you can buy bits of the moon now. But yeah, they have all kinds because people come up with the most ridiculous names for their online handles. So I figure.
Yeah.
People's names for stars have to be pretty silly. I'm sure a lot of people name them after themselves, but I'm sure there's people that say Stupid Star Name Birthday Present.
Yeah, there are lots of really comic star names in there, and then there's one I slipped in, which is an Easter egg about something completely different. I'm wondering if anyone will actually come back and go, yes, I know what that planet is.
Oh, okay, I'm curious now. I didn't catch that.
Well, there you go. There's a reason for you to read it again. Just in case reading it like 5 times in the past 4 months hasn't actually got you to the point where you don't want to read it again for a while.
I think I can leave it at this stage. I pretty much have the story memorized. So.
I think putting it once it's actually been released, I might not look at it again until November when we start on Greenstar season 2.
So in a month and a half.
Yeah, so because I'm looking forward to a nice 2-week holiday in which I don't do any Greenstar, just to reset my mind.
We could actually mention. So our plan at the moment, now this isn't don't hold us to this, but our plan is to push Greenstar twice a year.
Yeah.
So there'll be Greenstar seasons on the 1st of June and the 1st of December. Now this is, as I say, our early plan, so we're going to do our best to do that, but it's not a promise yet. It's just a hope that we'll be able to do 2 seasons a year. So we'll be starting work on season 2 really soon. I don't know if there was anything else you wanted to say before we stop there, Dave?
Don't think so. No, I mean, I want to leave sort of some things undiscussed, so we don't go on for absolutely hours, and also so that we don't take all of the enjoyment out of people coming up with their own theories about what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's
I know that if I'm watching a series, I like to try and work out what they're setting up. So I'd hate to reveal all the stuff we've got planned now.
I mean, the thing is as well to say that there's some books out there or seasons out there. There's people have started writing this kind of episodic or serial stuff, and some of them kind of have open stories where they'll write 5 seasons of the same story, whereas we've kind of shown obviously that it's going to continue the story in a general sense, but the calamari to the invasion kind of is one complete thing. So there is continuation, and there's stuff that's in this season that keeps going into the next season. But yeah, basically the new season will be a new adventure. Yep.
Yep.
So I think we'll stop there, and then we're going to do another hangout. For us, it's in a week's time, but by the time you see this, you can pretty much watch the second hangout on our collaboration. So that's going to be more for writers, authors. We're kind of talking about how we collaborate, but anyone who's a reader, it should be interesting there too, to kind of get. That'll be more of a look into our process and how we work together and stuff like that. So thank you very much for watching, and thank you for reading Greenstar.